Hello, Screen Pups, and welcome to another episode of Speak Screen Pups Speak. Except that it's not another episode of Speak Screen Pups Speak. That's right, I have decided to rename the show, as I am wont to do. Screened Pupcast is the new name of the show. Screened Pupcast. And I gotta admit, I like it. I like it more, though. I like it. I'm gonna keep it. Maybe. We'll see. Anyway, that's not what's important. What's important is that today we have a show that has no topic. That's right. My guest today is rocking Kimo Save, or Kevin, as I know him. And he came on, and we were both rushed. We were both wanting to get this done so that we could get out there a show. And we just decided, you know what? Let's just skip the topic. Let's just get to the main. Let's just get to what we're going to talk about. And we decided to talk about Amazing Spider-Man, which we both saw. We did a little spoilers discussion of it. And then we did another 100 entries on the Screen Pups favorite movies list. So you have that to look forward to today. Before we begin, though, I just want to say that next week we're going to be doing a big episode. We're going to be doing our big Dark Knight Rises episode, in which I'm going to be having multiple guests come on the show. I'm going to put up an announcement shortly after this podcast comes up, in which I will say, hey, if you want to be on the show, just let me know. And I'll take nominees to be on the show. We'll discuss later from there the exact format and the time of it. There's also one other thing that I want to talk about before the show begins. And this one is a little bit more business-oriented. We got to do a little house cleaning here. Got to talk about some stuff. I know that for a while now we've all been nervous about the state of the site. And we've been nervous for so long that nervousness has kind of turned into anger and rebellion. And I have been watching for a long time that Facebook like page on the front page, and it has been dropping steadily. I mean, in the time that it took me to record this week's episode, something happened where it just started plummeting. It dropped faster this last 2 weeks than it has in any other period of time since the site got taken over. And I've also been noticing a lot of blogs and a lot of forums start to pop up on the site about this current state of the site, what we're going to, whether or not the site is going to survive. And I want to kind of put everyone's fears to rest a little bit. You see, a few weeks back, after the second week of Newsroom, which I have multiple issues with myself, I was reading Stacey Wee's little blog on it, and she commented on a lot of the things that I was concerned with on the show, namely the portrayal of women on the show. And one of the main topics that I want to eventually do an entire podcast on is the role of female characters in our media, on television and in movies. I thought, you know what? She just said a lot of the concerns that I had with that show. I'm going to contact her, and I am going to ask her to be on the show. And you know what? She got back to me. And once again, Stacey Wee, incredibly nice. She responds quickly. She is very pleasant to talk to. And, we had a little back and forth. And we talked about the idea of her being on the podcast. And there's a couple things that I want to bring up. First off, I've seen a couple people on the site say that Stacey Wee should not be writing for the page, and you feel like she isn't one of us. And I'm here to say, you shouldn't be afraid of that at all. Stacey Wee is definitely one of us. Screened is a site for movie and television geeks. It is a site for people who are obsessed with this kind of stuff, and it is a true passion of theirs. I sent her a little thing saying, hey, I agree with the stuff you're saying, and I would love to have you on and talk about women in the media, and, also, namely, to cover a lot of stuff that's going on in Newsroom. And she came back with all this stuff about Sorkin, started talking about, how Newsroom relates to other Sorkin series, and about her opinions on it. Stuff I didn't ask for at all, but that's what geeks do. I'm a geek. I know that. This is what we do. When we are given an opportunity to talk passionately about something we enjoy, we do it. And in the little exchange that we had, I could tell she is one of us. So I don't want anybody else on the site to be saying that, oh, this site is bad and Stacey Wee is to blame for it. She is definitely not. Stacey Wee is doing her best from what I can tell. And so I want everybody to know, as long as she's in charge, we do have one of us in there. We have a geek like us in there fighting the good fight, and I'm behind her completely. The other thing that a lot of people are concerned about is, what's happening with the site? We haven't heard anything about the site. And I'm not going to go into any details, but Stacey Wee did tell me a couple of things. and she did lay out a little bit of a plan, and I can't say what it is. I'm not going to say anything that she told me, but I will tell you guys that for any of you who are thinking about leaving, I want you to stay, because she laid out some stuff to me which really, for the first time in a couple of months, has actually given me hope for this site. But also gave me excitement. It made me actually excited about the prospect of where Screen was going, and made me want to see what was coming next. And it gave me hope that I was going to once again return to something similar to what once was. So, for anybody out there who is thinking about jumping ship and thinking that, you know, it's not worth it to stay on the site, let me just say, stick around, because Stacey Wee has once again given me hope. So, I know some of you might be thinking, well, how come she's telling you these things and she's not telling us these things? Listen, Screen, I love you. You're a great website. It's one of the few websites out there that's actually full of adults who are courteous and kind and considerate. You know, patient is another great thing that I should point out. Very patient. But, as I said, we have now sat around for so long that I fully understand why they're not telling us anything at this point, because if they came out and told us something now, after we've been waiting for so long, and then in a month they had to come back and say, hey, it's taken us a little bit longer than we thought, that would be, for many of you, the straw that would break your back. I would see many of you just start leaving the site in droves. That would be the moment that... So, I fully understand why they're not telling us this at this point, but let me just say, take my word on it, stick around, because, like I said, I do have hope once again. So, to recap, Stacey Wee, she's one of us. She is a geek just like us. I feel confident in her being the person in charge now. And also, stick around, because once again, I do have hope that this site is going to turn to something really great. Or at least, you know, it's going to improve. They're actually working on something. I can tell you that much. And please don't start barraging Stacey Wee, asking her, oh, well, what'd you tell him? Please tell us the same thing, because, yeah, they can't go around telling everybody this. Like I said, they have to keep it secret at this moment, and I understand why. So please just trust me on this and just sit tight. And also, like I said, I asked her to be on the show, and she wants to be on the show. Like, I could honestly tell that she loved the idea of being on the show. So, I don't know when, but we are working on it. I'm trying to work out a time in which I can have her on for an episode. She has to, of course, you know, because it's a company, she has to go through stages and, you know, get passed by multiple people. And a lot of you might think, well, why would she have to do that? Listen, you guys don't know me. You guys have only listened to me for 5 episodes of this thing, and I love you for doing that, and I thank you so much. But I've worked in multiple positions in my life where I have been the representative for a company. I have been the face of a company, and when you are the face of a company, you can't screw up anything. You have to make sure that you are never putting yourself in a situation where you can put the company in question and create a bad representation of yourself. Think about Affleck and how Gilbert Gottfried had to be fired because of a joke he made on Twitter. That's what I'm talking about. You have to make sure that you are putting yourself in a place where the site looks good. And like I said, you guys don't really know me. You've listened to me for 5 episodes, but yeah, Stacey Wee could come on the show, and then all of a sudden, I could just turn into a raving maniac, and then it would make her look bad by association, and would make the whole site look bad. So I fully understand why she has to go through a system, why she can't just come on the show. But like I said, she honestly does want to come on the show, because, to reiterate, she is one of us. She is a geek just like us, and that's one of the reasons I'm confident. So, thank you for listening to me talk about that. I just wanted to kind of get it out there. Hopefully try and put out some fires. But for now, enjoy this episode with me, Rockin' Kimo Sabe, and look forward to next week's episode, our big Dark Knight Rises episode. And the show starts in 5, 4, 3... Hi there, Screen Pups, and welcome to another episode of Screen Pupcast. I'm testing that name out. It's shorter and easier to say. I like it so far. My guest, once again, is going to be Kevin, or as you on the site know him, Rockin' Kimosabe.
Or the number one position person in the box office winners league.
Yes, you have taken the title now on the Box Office Winners League. You are in the lead at the moment.
Yeah, but I didn't have a very good weekend over this last weekend, so...
I still have 0 points in that thing, which I know everybody's going to say, oh, it's just a crapshoot, it's all just luck. I swear to you this is true. I'm not making this up. I did this for a living for a year and a half after I got out of college. This was my job, was to conduct surveys with people in order to create create data that could be sent off to studios so that they could kind of get an idea of how much money their film was going to make opening weekend.
Yeah, tracking numbers.
Yeah, tracking numbers, exactly. This is like the actual job I had, and I am still at week 8, got a 0 on this.
Well, there's a science to it. Maybe once this is like all over, and if I do win, I'll give all my secrets away, and then I won't do the whole Box Office Winners League Winter Edition. I don't know. Or do I have to defend my crown? But then again, I'm already saying that I'm going to win, which is probably not the case.
You're getting some good little smack talk going on, and I sent out like a mass email to everybody asking who wanted to be on the show, and like you and Monkey Man were really starting to get into it.
Just some playful banter back and forth.
Just some playful jabs. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be fun to see how that all ends up going. But yeah, this is going to be a short episode, which is what I said last week, and it went on to become our longest. But I swear, this one is actually going to be short, because we were skipping the trailer. By the way, Here Comes the Boom looks horrible.
I avoided it. I actually have not even seen the trailer for Ice Age 3. Or Ice Age... Is it 4 or 3?
I swear to you, I'm not making this up, I think it's 5.
Oh, that's not including those, like, short films with that little critter, is it?
Yeah, it's the one with... Oh, no, it's not including the little short Scrap, that's his name. It's not including all the little ones with that. Shit, I should really just ask Michelle. She's like 5 feet from me, and she'd know. She's shaking her head. No. Okay. It's, let's see. There was the original Ice Age. Then there's the one where he met Queen Latifah. And then I want to say there was one in between that one and the one where they found all the dinosaurs.
Is that one the holiday special or something?
No, I'm talking like an actual released in theaters one.
Well, those movies make a whole bunch of money, so...
They do! Which,
I've only actually seen the first one.
I saw the first one, I was like, it's alright.
I still don't understand why Dennis Leary's in those movies. Paychecks, probably.
Oh, you mean why he agrees to take the job?
Yeah, it just seems like something he would absolutely not do.
Well, the first one, you gotta understand, it's sort of like a, the first one was like, hey, I have kids and they want an animated thing, fine, I'll do something that they can watch.
Yeah, he basically did something in which his children can see.
Yeah, exactly.
His kids probably aren't allowed to watch whatever that firefighting show he was doing.
Yeah, exactly. So it was one of those things where it was, hey, I'll do it for the kids, and without realizing he's now stuck for life. But also, Dennis Leary was a stand-up comic, and if you'll notice, a lot of stand-up comics will pretty much take anything, because when you work in that field, that's kind of the mentality that you have to build up doing that work. Because when you start off as a stand-up comic, you gotta take anything you can get. You gotta take corporate gigs, you gotta take, working at a little dive bar for almost no money. And it's a mentality that builds up in you. And we see it in lots of actors, like Samuel L. Jackson takes any job he can get, because that dude didn't become famous till he was like in his late 30s. And up until then, he just took any tiny shit gig he could take. And that's why to this day, even though he's a huge actor, he still just will show up and take any job you give him, because that's what he worked as for decades. So
there was an interesting interview with when Leary was on Jon Stewart's Daily Show, and they were kind of, because it sounded like they were maybe roommates with one another, and they were kind of talking about their history with the stand-up routine.
Yeah, they grew. Yeah, those two kind of came up together. I've mentioned this on the show before, but after movies and comics, stand-up is my number one obsession. And yeah, those two really came up in like the same generation and like the same area. And and stand-up comedy is kind of like going to war because a ton of people will go in, but only a very few will come out, and the few that come out always know each other and are always very close.
Yeah.
So yeah, those two are of that group. But let's get into some actual good movie talk.
Speaking of Dennis Leary.
Yes. Oh no. Yeah, I wasn't gonna go quite into that because I wanted to. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, you mentioned to me earlier that you had seen The Gray, and I wanted to ask you your opinions on that.
Yeah, I was of the mindset that I would probably go see it when it was in the theaters, but that never really happened. So when it came out on DVD, I finally got around to seeing it, and that's got to be so far halfway through the year. It's probably my favorite movie of the year so far.
Yeah, and I think actually you and I can't remember if we talked about this on the show, but I believe we talked very briefly about this last time you did the interview, in which you mentioned there is no movie that is enhanced by knowing how it ends. And I kind of said, well, I had heard some people say that they really enjoyed The Gray simply because they did know the ending going in. Did you? And a lot of people who didn't know the ending were really pissed at it. Did you know the ending going in? And if not, how'd you feel about it?
I knew the ending, what it was in the broadest of strokes. I just knew that there was a tonal shift halfway through that movie, and I knew that there was going to be some reflective property at the very end of the film. So I knew that was going to come in, and honestly, I'm glad for a movie like that. Like, The Gray proves that Joe Carnahan, he's a good writer, he's a good director. Like, I didn't see the A-Team, but I think if he does more movies like this and not like Smoking Aces, he can be, I don't know, like the John Cassavetes of this generation of filmmakers.
Yeah, I didn't see that movie in theaters because it looked to me so much like, Taken with Wolves, which is how they tried to pitch it.
Yeah, it's like Taken, but versus nature instead of French terrorists.
Yes. But yeah, that was the review that every review I heard kept saying, yeah, this is not like some big action film. This is just a movie about what do you do when you're faced with death, and not in a it's time to go out guns blazing kind of way. It's more of a what do you do psychologically when you know you are going to die.
There are some very poignant and very sad moments in that movie, which are I wasn't really expecting, but I'm glad it was there, because there's so many movies that you would just assume, like, yeah, like it's Taken, but with nature. But there's a lot more to that. And for that, I'm thankful, and I think that was one of the reasons why I like the movie so much more than I thought it was going to be. Like, all the things that movie promised with all the promotional stuff, like the plane crash and the stuff with the wolves, that's all really well done, if the wolf part is a bit unbelievable. But having that part, that expectation being really good, and then having something else underneath, I think that gives a better movie experience that I think it's more memorable to me.
Yeah, I can't wait to check it out. It's still on my to-view list, but I look forward to it. As far as movies that I've seen recently, I recently watched The Goon, which is now on Netflix Instant Queue.
The hockey movie?
Yeah, the hockey movie.
I saw that one too.
Oh yeah, how'd you like it?
I liked everything about it except the raunchy, vulgar humor.
Jay Baruchel?
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't even... The moment you said "except," I was like, I know exactly what he is going to say.
Yeah, like, it's those moments where they just kind of go... They try to take the slapshot method of just kind of being raunchy and vulgar, just like any other Judd Apatow movie. But I think everything else that revolves around how they portray hockey and all the relationships with... like the girlfriend, Alison Pale's character.
Oh, I love that relationship, yeah.
Yeah, like Sean William Scott. A lot of people give him crap, but I think he's a good actor. Like, I really liked him in Southland Tales, regardless of... Well, that movie's terrible, but he's really good in that movie, and I think outside of the stiff role that he's become so acknowledged with, I think he can be a really good actor, and I think this really proves it.
Yeah, and I think that this movie kind of shows that he's now getting to that point in his career where it's like, okay, I'm done just having fun. I now actually want to act. Because this really is a character, and you mentioned, Grey's probably your favorite movie of the year. This is not my favorite movie of the year, but it's going to be hard for any film to give me a character that I like more this year than Doug Glatt, the main character in this. Because, he's this big, dumb ape of a man, and normally in real life...
He's a former bouncer, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But normally in real life, you'd meet a guy like that, and he'd be, like, really angry, and, like, really... Well, I mean, they
show that because it's Liev Schreiber's character.
Yeah, they do show that.
He knows nothing else about playing hockey. He doesn't know how to shoot. He doesn't know how to pass. He's just there to beat the crap out of everyone else.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that this guy, they say in the movie, you have been touched with the fist of God. Because this guy just has a talent that he has a steel head, and he can beat the crap out of anyone, almost like it's an art form. But you'd imagine a guy like that would just be some big, angry, powerful thug. But he's not. He is just a big teddy bear, and a lot of that comes through just in, like, the facial expressions that Sean William Scott gives in this. I mean, there's a moment there where he's just telling a story about how he's always being hit in the face by garbage, and you were just like, I just want to give you a hug, man. You just need someone to cheer you up, is all.
He's the lovable goofball. Well, not really goofball, but the lovable loser.
Yeah, and I mean, lovable is the key word there. He is just insanely likable. It would be hard-pressed.
And that's why it was so difficult for Alison Pill's character to, like, just have a one-night stand with him, because he was different from everybody else. He had heart to him.
I know, and there's that great moment where he's talking to her, and he doesn't say, oh, I want to be with you forever, something really romantic, and he also doesn't say, I just think you're really hot. He just goes, I just have a really big... He shows up
in the coffee house with the chocolates and the flowers.
That is the greatest moment, and that is such a good moment where she just admits, hey, listen, I have a boyfriend, and he just goes... oh, this is going to make this awkward. And then he just pulls out a giant bag and goes, I bought you flowers. Here's some candy and a stuffed animal. I'll be going now. And it's just so sad because he just has this, like, cartoonish sense of what romance is. Because that's kind of how his mind thinks. He's not, he's not in it for... He's not a guy who just chases down tail or anything like that. He's just a guy who, he just wants someone to cuddle with.
Again, he's the complete antithesis of the French hockey player that he was supposed to be guarding.
Yes,
his
exactly.
Career turned into.
I know.
And for me, it's different because I'm from Canada, so hockey is a huge part of our culture here. So to have some... I feel that... I don't know. It represents what sort of the culture is out here. It might be different in Eastern Canada, but... out here in the West is sort of like that. Like I've known girls that are exactly like Alison Pill's character, who completely dig hockey players and for the violence.
All sports are going to have some kind of a girl like that, some kind of a groupie like that. But she wasn't a groupie. She was just a rational thinking person who just really dug the sport.
Yeah, I think all the hockey parts of the movie, like all the hockey scenes, are really well done, except. No NHL league would ever... The NHL would never allow fights to go on for that long. That
was one of my questions about that movie, because I'm not a big sports guy pretty much at all. Like, I know baseball, I know the rules of that, I used to play it, it's a fun game I'll play with friends, but aside from that, I really don't know anything about any other sport. And, I mean, my grandmother used to play organs for the local hockey team, so I knew a little bit about it, but I never saw fights like that, and I kept watching this going, this isn't, like, part of the rules. I have no idea why this is going on and why they're not being allowed to stop, but, it's one of those things that you just have to kind of, like, put out your hand and just go, it's just the story.
Yeah, like, at the end where Liev Schreiber calls off the ref to intervene, that would never happen.
That was a total, I'm trying to think of, it just turned into Rocky at that point in time. But, I mean, it was fun.
It's good to have a good sports movie, because there hasn't really been any of those in the past few years.
I was really trying to think of what the last one was that I saw.
Miracle, but I didn't even see that.
Wow,
I just heard it was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, and I can't think of anything since then that's really stood out to people. But, yeah, Goon is on Netflix, Instant Q. It is very well worth a watch. But let's get into what we both watched, and also this is our spoiler sport part of the show where we just have a discussion about a movie that recently came out, and we just don't care about spoilers. You know, it's not like we're going to try and spoil it, but you know, we're just going to talk no holds barred. So once again, I timestamp every episode. Look down below, and you know, come back when it's over if you haven't seen the movie. But we're going to be talking about Amazing Spider-Man. This is what you were trying to lead into with Dennis Leary.
Yeah,
Captain Stacy
leaned into and failed. I fell off those bars.
Well, we weren't playing. Well, I wanted to get in a little bit of discussion about that because we were starting to talk about The Gray, and also because Goon was just so good. I'm in love with that movie. But yes, let's get into Amazing Spider-Man now. The big question that everyone has to ask is it better than the Sam Raimi ones? And you know, I did a little audio review, and I don't know, I can't remember how much I went into that, but even though it was just like 5 days ago. But what was your take on it? How do you think it stacks up to the Sam Raimi ones?
I think it's a better origin story, but I'm not sure if it's a better Spider-Man film.
Yeah, it's...
I like how they set up Spider-Man and what he's all about and how he kind of develops and understands his powers. It's way more intelligently thought out, or I think it just made it more entertaining than Raimi's films. Like the whole part where Spider-Man, like he wakes up in the train station or in the subway, and he just like starts ripping the bars off and like picks people up and jumps off on top of the roof. That's way more entertaining than Tobey Maguire falling asleep and then waking up with washboard abs.
Yeah, that
whole discovery of power is way more interesting.
The weird thing to me is that in that movie, I know that Tobey Maguire actually had those abs, but it still looks CGI to me. I don't know. I think my brain just won't let me accept that Tobey Maguire looked that good.
And I think a lot of people were getting caught up in the fact that they still have more nostalgia for how good Spider-Man 2 was, that maybe that's clouding up their judgment of how good that first movie is. Like, that first movie is okay at best.
That's definitely part of it, because I will admit, Spider-Man 2, I think, is, you know,
it's
it really is great.
It's kind of like that first great comic book movie that really ushered in how good a comic book movie was. It kind of paved the way that you can have a really great and powerful story, and that kind of paved the way for what Batman Begins and what the Avengers did, and a whole bunch of other movies since then.
Yeah, I've always said that if you don't like, you know, I was having a discussion with my sister recently, who she just thinks comic books are stupid, which they kind of are. That's coming from
they can be goofy.
Yeah, exactly. That's coming from a comic book geek. I'm saying that with love, people. But yeah, and she was saying how bad the first Spider-Man movie was.
Well, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just okay.
Oh yeah, exactly. But she was saying how bad it was,
Oh.
and and then she started talking about Spider-Man 2, and I just had to stop her, and I went, okay, if you don't like Spider-Man 3, then congratulations, you have eyes. If you don't like Spider-Man 1, alright, fine, I can understand that. If you don't like Spider-Man 2, you're just hating. You're just hating, that's all.
Just trolling.
Just trolling, exactly. But yeah, that first Spider-Man movie, I believe that, you know, I enjoyed the first Spider-Man movie more than I enjoyed this one, but that's because I was 17 and I had never really seen anything like this. I had never really seen a superhero film done quite that well. And I was just really enjoying it, and it was a fun, bouncy, upbeat movie. But in the years since then, looking back at it, and I think a lot of people look back at it with that same nostalgia. That's how it was, you know, then. No other film had really been like that. But looking back at it now, I can kind of say...
Those comic book movies have evolved ever since Christopher Nolan came out. Everyone wants more grounded in reality. There's not much of that campy comic book style that Sam Raimi is known for, and that's what he gave Spider-Man. And that's where I sort of come from, too. I prefer the grounded in reality than the campy stuff.
I can kind of go with either as long as they're done well. And looking back at that original Spider-Man, I now can see all the flaws in it compared to what has come after that. So comparing it to this Spider-Man film, I'd say that I do think that The Amazing Spider-Man is a little bit better than that first Spider-Man film. But I still feel like, you know, as a true diehard Spider-Man fan, I look at the Sam Raimi one and I go, you know what, there is half of a really great Spider-Man movie in that film. And in The Amazing Spider-Man, there's the other half. Like, both directors got half of Spider-Man perfect.
Yeah, so now some fan just has to edit both of those movies together.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really anxious to see where Spider-Man 2 goes. And I think a lot of people had a problem with Amazing Spider-Man because they kind of felt like, well, they just made Spidey a jerk in this one. And, Spider-Man
it's one of the things that I don't have any background with Spider-Man, the cartoon or the comic book.
Right.
But it just seems like he's this... I don't understand the snarky nature of Spider-Man. I don't understand that whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think it kind of failed to kind of get that across. And to me, Spider-Man has always been kind of like the reverse Superman. Because Superman, he's this big, cool, brave guy who he has to put on normal clothes and pretend to be this little nebbish nerd. Spider-Man is a nerd, but when he puts on the costume, he just feels good. Like, it just feels natural to him. So that's why he kind of gets on the snarky, the jokey nature to himself. But also, it's kind of like a defense thing. It helps in the situation when things get really tense, and that's why I absolutely love that scene with him and the kid on the
bridge.
On the bridge, thank you. There's always going to be a bridge scene in every Spider-Man film. That's how it has to go.
Well, you always need some place where Spider-Man can swing.
Where he can swing, but also if you know anything about Spider-Man's history, he and Bridges don't get along, and I feel that we're going to see that come back again sometime in the trilogy. It's hard for me not to spoil it, because any comic book fan out there knows exactly what I'm talking about, but I can't. I want to keep it secret to anybody who doesn't know what's coming. What was I about to say? When he's there on the bridge with the kid, and he's being kind of jokey and playful with him, that's, to me, is kind of why he is that way, because it diffuses the tension from situations. Shoot, what I was about to say. But yeah.
Well, what did you think of the cast?
Of the cast, I absolutely like, I really like, Garfield. What's his name?
Garfield.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield. I really like him. He did a lot better than I thought he was going to do. Like I said, they did kind of make Peter Parker pretty, a little bit darker and, a little bit darker than...
A little bit more angsty.
A little bit more, thank you. A little bit more angsty than I picture him. However, it seemed to me like this entire movie was nothing but his origin story. And yes, Spidey's origin story is, I was picked on at school, didn't have any friends, and my uncle just died. So I had no problem with that. And at the end of the movie, you see him and Flash, the bully, kind of getting along. Flash comes up, pats him on the back, and says, "You're coming along, Parker." And I like that. I like seeing the progression, and I think Andrew Garfield really pulled that off. And
he's a much better actor than Maguire. He has a better range.
Yeah, and I actually like Tobey Maguire, but I gotta say, in this role, Andrew Garfield definitely did a better role. And Emma Stone, wow,
she's good with what she's given.
She's good with what she's given, but I absolutely love the chemistry between those two. I really felt like they sold that.
Well, it was a real chemistry, because now they're dating in real life, so...
Yeah, it ended up working out. And the one that really surprised me was Martin Sheen as Uncle Ben, because I heard that and I was just like, oh, they're just going to get some big-name actor to almost do a cameo and then die. But Martin Sheen really gave character to Uncle Ben. You actually really saw why Uncle Ben was an important person to Peter Parker. And in the first movie, I was like, all right, come on, Uncle Ben, I know you're going to die. It's going to be sad. You're a nice old man. But, you need to die so Spider-Man can be born. In this one, I was dreading it. I was actually dreading when Uncle Ben was going to die because they made me dread it.
Yeah. I honestly thought he was going to, on the voicemail at the very end, I thought he was going to say with great power comes great responsibility thing. But that never came, so...
It never came, but I kind of got to give them credit because they really wanted to distance themselves from the previous film. And while with great power comes great responsibility is Spider-Man's whole, his whole mythos, it kind of feels like it would have been forced if they had, put that into this film. So I like that they came up with something that was similar, but not quite the same thing.
Yeah. I was sort of surprised that the Indian actor, Irrfan Khan, I think his name is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he, tremendously huge Bollywood star. Like, one of the reasons why they wanted to cast him was that he was so popular, and of course the movie made a whole bunch of money in India because he was in it.
Wow.
Even if he was only in it for like 12 minutes. Like, after he's on the bridge in the car, he kind of just disappears.
Yeah, and that was kind of a problem with me, is that I was like, no, I'm kind of liking this guy. I kind of want to see more of him.
Yeah, it's always welcome to have, more ethnic actors in movies, like big Hollywood movies. It's not all like white people.
In fact, honestly, when he was tracking him at Oscorp, there was a moment in my head in which I went, are they going to make Norman Osborn Indian? Because, I mean, aside from the last name, aside from the fact that I think Osborn is an Irish name, this guy looks like Norman Osborn. I would totally buy this guy as Norman Osborn.
Yeah, like, what else was he in? He was in that Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's a really good actor. And I kind of hope he's in the sequels.
I do really want to see, yeah, exactly. Like, him and Sally Fields as Aunt May, it really feels to me like those two characters should have been in this movie more, but they were just kind of forgotten. Because after the bridge, we don't really see him, and then with Aunt May, there's like a good chunk of the film where she's just not in.
Yeah. And Risa Fawn, he's a good villain, but I was surprised because I've only ever known him to be sort of the goofball role from other comedies, but he has some gravitas. But
well, that's the thing, is that it surprised me how many comedic actors go on to play great villains.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know if it's that, just a lot of comedians have a lot of rage in them, which I could see, or if
I think there's a whole bunch of great comedians that are just great actors in general. Like, before Gene Wilder was a comedy star in the producers, he was just mostly a drama actor. Mm-hmm. Until Mel Brooks found him, so obviously there's talent in these comedic actors.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even just like, people who start off as like stand-up comics, they go on to many times play great villains. I mean, Kevin Pogg's been a villain. Just look at Drive, Albert Brooks.
Yeah.
No one thought that guy could have been that good of a villain outside of Hank Scorpio on The Simpsons. But
like John C. Reilly.
Oh, yeah.
Extremely funny guy, but also an extremely good dramatic actor.
Yeah, he really is. But yeah, what do you think of this?
Did you see it in 3D?
I did actually see it in 3D, yeah, which is so weird for me, because normally I'm like, this is just a cash-in, but I thought to myself, if there's any superhero who's actually going to look good in 3D, it's got to be Spider-Man. I mean, he swings through the sky, he's going to be CGI most of the time. It would make absolute sense to me that he would look best in 3D. And honestly, it's 3D to me is only really good if it's one of those things where you're constantly being reminded of it. If it's something that's constantly coming out at you. Hugo, they had like that dust all around them, and the 3D actually made it look like it was in the theater with you. And, How to Train Your Dragon, there's all those flying scenes. Or, if you go with, like, comedy, the Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, they're constantly just reaching out at you. In this movie, they didn't... It's one of those things in which they didn't care whether or not it was 3D, so they just... you're not going to notice anything jumping out at you because there's nothing there to jump out at you. But I am glad that I paid the extra cash for it. Because first off, I went to a matinee, meaning I only had to pay $2 extra rather than $5. But also, that final scene where all the cranes have to line up and he has to swing across the city, that actually looked really good in 3D. I gotta admit, that really, like, Spidey was, like, popping off the screen at you. You did feel like you were flying around the city. It actually really did work. But every other scene aside from that, there's really no point to seeing it.
Yeah, I saw it in IMAX 3D, and I'm completely with you. Like, all the scenes where Spider-Man is actually swinging, that's probably some of my favorite 3D. It's especially when he was doing the cranes, like when he was diving down, and then when it has like he's swinging upwards, and then he just like stays up in the screen for like a second in his feet.
Oh yeah, I know the exact scene you're talking about. Yeah,
it's kind of like that money shot they've been showing in old trailers. Like,
it was.
That stuff looks incredible in 3D. But all the rest of the movie, I barely noticed the 3D. I'm kind of glad they did not go for the what is it? It's like whenever there's an over-the-shoulder shot in a conversation, a lot of 3D films make it look like it's like a pop-up book.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
I know what you're talking
completely distracting, and they did not have any of that in Amazing Spider-Man, but I think I can't really remember any other 3D in that movie besides all those parts where he's swinging.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't think of another scene aside from that. That's how it is kind of with all the Marvel films, because when I saw The Avengers, I knew I'd find a way to sneak it into this episode, 5 episodes in running. When I saw The Avengers, I did that whole movie marathon, and in order to do that, you had to see them in 3D. You couldn't see it normally. So I saw it in 3D.
I didn't see that, and I've actually seen none of the Marvel movies in 3D. So
Yeah,
I can't really say.
Yeah, I hadn't seen any of them either until that night when, you have to watch Thor and Captain America in 3D. And I was just watching, and yeah, it never really pops out, but each of those movies have one scene where it's like, oh shoot, this is 3D, and it's coming, Thor's hammer's coming right at me. And then the rest of the movie's nothing. That kind of seems to be how it is, because most of these Marvel films really seem to be it's just story, then one big special effects thing at the end.
Yeah, and all those Marvel movies, none of them were shot in 3D. Like, Amazing Spider-Man was shot in 3D. So it kind of begs the question, like, what was going on?
Yeah, it really, which granted,
Like,
Amazing
I know
Spider-Man
all the cameras they were using were all prototypes of the new Red Epic cameras, so maybe they just weren't working as optimally as they were hoping. But, I don't know. It seemed like all that crane sequence stuff, that was all CG, so obviously that worked much better for them.
Yeah, exactly. Any one of these movies, which, Spidey, he always wears a mask, so in a way, that makes him the best to do these 3D things with, because the 3D always works best in, like, an animated film, where everything is CGI. Because Spidey wears a mask, you can just CGI him completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember when I saw The Avengers, the Hulk was the best thing in 3D because the Hulk's 100% CGI, and they actually made sure to make him work for 3D. They didn't even really do the 3D layering on any other special effect other than the Hulk.
Yeah, I think that I'm glad I saw it in 3D. I really am, but I wanted to see it in IMAX. But I'm glad there was at least one really incredible part in 3D. Besides the whole movie just being a complete wash.
Yeah, exactly. Where do you feel about the future of this franchise? Because they've said that they want it to be a trilogy, which, no surprise there.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a surprise because most of the other Marvel films, they don't care about whether or not they're a trilogy. They're just going to keep making them until they stop making money. Like Iron Man, they've pretty much said that's not a trilogy. That's just going to keep on going.
Even if we have to get compared it to the Bond
James
franchise.
Bond, yeah. Which, I mean, if there's any superhero you're going to do a James Bond comparison, I guess Iron Man. He's always changing armor, and he is a billionaire playboy, so I guess. But, yeah, once again, I don't think people are going to want to keep seeing these films over and over again. So, in a way, I was really relieved when they said, nope, after 3, that's it. Granted, in another 10 years, Sony is, of course, going to make another Spider-Man movie in order to keep the franchise. But...
yeah.
But yeah, where do you feel about the future of this specific trilogy? Because they put in that kind of weird capper there during the middle of the credits.
Yeah, the stinger.
Yeah.
I'm so mad about the whole post-credits stinger thing now.
Just in general, or that one?
No, like just how the general feeling is about all these post-credit things.
Yeah.
It's not post-credit anymore. You don't have to wait until the very end. It's just like the first couple minutes, then they start playing it. That bothers me. It just seems like, I guess not that many people really want to wait through the entire credits, so we'll just put it in halfway through.
Yeah, it used to be a big surprise for those who decide to stay and wait, just a little thing specifically for them, and now it's just, hey, everybody knows it's coming, let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah, the first movie that I remember that did that was the first Transformers movie.
Oh, I didn't even, I got out of there as soon as I could. So, yeah, I did not see I didn't even know there was a stinger to that one.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that interesting anyway, but Spider-Man, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I liked it when the Avengers did. I'll say that, because they give you that mid-credit stinger, and then they give you the comedic.
They gave you two, so...
Yeah, exactly. And the second one was the joke one, so...
Yeah. It was filmed a week before that movie came out.
Yeah, that I absolutely love them doing that. But yeah, with that one, I don't know. It's one of those in which a lot of the goodwill I have towards this Spider-Man film is because in my mind I'm going, okay, this is where they could go with the film. Like, I really think that stinger they put in this one is kind of crappy, but if it turns out, if, Amazing Spider-Man 2 turns out to be really great, then I know that I'll look back at that stinger and go, oh yeah, that was a great lead up into this one. Even though, yeah.
I don't know. I sort of feel rather indifferent to a sequel at this point. Like, I don't think the movie was good enough for me to be just desperately waiting to hear what they're gonna do next. But I just kind of want more Emma Stone in the next one.
I agree. Yeah, she really to me did just knock this out because, I mean, I've said this before. The moment that I heard she was going to be in this movie, I just naturally went, oh yeah, she'd be a great Mary Jane. Like, my brain wouldn't even process that she was playing Gwen Stacy because Emma Stone has played Mary Jane in every other film that Emma Stone has ever done.
Yeah, and Emma Stone is naturally more commonly a redhead, so...
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, I thought that she really pulled it off, and I will be happy to see where they take this.
Yeah, and I actually really liked Bryce Dallas Howard in Spider-Man 3, too.
Oh, yeah. I really like Bryce Dallas Howard, period. I thought she was fantastic in The Help. I'm shocked she did not get a nomination for that.
I never saw The Help. I liked her in, like, maybe the 5 minutes she was in Terminator Salvation.
I didn't. Yeah, that's like the one. Wait a minute. Terminator Salvation, was that the third one or the fourth one?
Fourth one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the one I haven't seen.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah, I'm not really sure I'm not really sure what I want out of the next Spider-Man film.
Yeah, it's. I was thinking about where they're going to take the trilogy, and of course, in my mind, I know like kind of what they're going for, but they teased Osborn, so obviously the Green Goblin's coming back. And I'm just wondering, are they going to save him are they going to immediately do him or save him for the third one? And I don't know which is the better answer on that one.
Yeah.
Because it seems like they really want Venom to be in this one as well, which is understandable because the whole thing is what's the secret behind Peter Parker's parents? And in one version of the story, they're the people who created the Venom symbiote. So it's like, okay, obviously they're going to put that in. So it seems like obviously in one movie they're going to do Green Goblin, and then another they're going to do Venom. And I'm just saying this right now, don't put them in the same movie, just give them their own movies.
Well, there is that Sony movie that's for Venom that's going to be directed by Josh Trank, who did Chronicle.
Chronicle, yeah.
And they were talking about maybe having crossover there.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
So maybe they can sort of have Venom in his own movie because you have, like, from what I gather, you have to have Venom in order to have Carnage, right?
That's true, yeah.
So maybe Carnage is maybe a good villain for maybe 3.
You know what, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble because Carnage...
You don't like Carnage.
Well, that's the thing. It's not that I dislike Carnage, but he's one of those guys who popped up in the 90s when comics were trying to, A, be extreme, but at the same time trying to become more childlike, like trying to become more simplistic so that a younger audience could get into them. And Carnage is just kind of the embodiment of both those things, because what is Carnage? Well, he's a serial killer with a Venom symbiote on, basically. And when I was a kid, yeah, I thought that was really cool, but when I became an adult, I went, oh, there's really no story to Carnage. That's just it. He is a serial killer who creates really sharp things from his body. Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you gave that to a writer and they went, you know what, I'm going to tinker with this, they could take it in interesting ways. I mean, because when you think about what's the Joker? He's a serial killer with lots of knives. But in the hands of someone really good, they take that in really good places.
And I think what the tone that they've established in the Amazing Spider-Man now, I think they could do a darker sort of Carnage.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be very interested in seeing where this franchise goes. It's all a big question mark, and I'll admit I did really like Amazing Spider-Man, but a lot of the reasons I liked it are just things I'm making up in my head going, and this could all lead into this, and so the future films, I believe, are going to affect my take on this current movie.
Yeah. I hope Mark Webb comes back.
I agree with that.
He did a really good job.
I think that he is a great guy to be directing this. It's, I know he can do personal relationship stuff, which I think is one of the reasons why the moments between Peter and Gwen work so well. But I was shocked that he could also...
And his aunt and uncle, too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But yeah, and it kind of surprised me that he could also do action so well.
Yeah, and I think the next one Sony has planned for 2014. So maybe with the incoming, inevitable success, massive success of The Dark Knight Rises, maybe Black Cat. Is that her name?
Oh, shoot, I had not even thought about that, but you're right. She would be a perfect...
She'll be the love triangle thing.
She would be a perfect addition to this franchise. I really think that with the tone they've established, Black Cat would be a great addition to it.
I was reading about the Amazing Spider-Man, and apparently she was in an early draft of the script, and she was maybe going to be played by Anne Hathaway.
Oh, wow.
But obviously not. But
yeah.
Anyway, that's one direction they could go. I don't really know anything about Spider-Man's mythology to give anything more concrete besides those characters, because those are the only ones that I know from osmosis.
Yeah, exactly.
Line, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. We all, I've always said it's impossible to be a geek in any one department and not kind of pick up some exterior knowledge about other geeky things. I have never watched the original Star Trek series. I will say that right now. And yet I know all the tropes from the original Star Trek series because I'm a geek in other things, and you will just eventually pick it up.
Did you at least watch Next Generation?
Next Generation, I watched some of it when I was a kid, and I have very little memory of it. But
I have old VHS tapes that are probably ruined now that have old TNG episodes.
Do you still own a VHS player?
No, but I have a whole bunch of VHSs.
Yeah, I still have
the Pokemon movie and the Digimon movie on VHS.
I should have had you on last week with Mike. He loves that stuff.
If I was on last week's, I would have talked about Metabots.
Oh my god! I just remember what Metabots is.
Metabots is probably one of my favorite anime shows, or kids anime shows ever.
Man, that took a while for that to come back to my mind. But yeah, I totally remember. They had they were little robots, and they had those Hercule beetle those
the little
things.
metals that they put inside the back.
Oh yeah.
That show is a complete ripoff of Pokemon, but I don't care. Metabots is so awesome.
Well, I think that's our discussion about Amazing Spider-Man, unless you wanted to bring anything else up. How did you think the CGI on the lizard looked?
He looked okay.
Yeah, it was alright.
I think the visual effects they were okay.
Yeah, exactly. They were, not that great, but not bad either. But yeah, let's go into the end of our show now. We're getting close to that hour mark. Let's go back to the Screen Pups favorite movies list. And we're just going to
Kingdom of Heaven Director's Cut is the best movie.
Yeah, that was number 99, and we stopped at number 100. And that was your addition. Talk about that. We'll back up 2 spots and go back to previously on the Screen Pups favorite movie list. Number 99, Kingdom of Heaven. Director's Cut.
The director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven is pretty awesome.
Yeah, which luckily Mr. Maz last week, he had also seen it and he agrees with you. So we were able to talk about at least some.
And he specifically asked whether it's the theatrical or director's cut.
He did, yes. And so you two would be experts to talk about that. But yeah, any other additions that you wanted to add into that?
About Kingdom of Heaven?
The director's cut, like you were telling me about all the stuff that adds in that wasn't in the I
stand by what I said before. A lot of the stuff that was added really made the rest of the story a much more complete film, and it made a lot of the more characters way more interesting and gave them an interesting depth. Like the Queen, that's played by Ava Green, her story is incredibly tragic in the director's cut, which is never really covered whatsoever in the theatrical cut. Like, it's just kind of her relationship with Guy and the relationship with Orlando Bloom's character. Also, that movie has such an incredible cast.
It really does. I'm trying.
Regardless of what you think of Orlando Bloom, everyone else in the movie is incredible. Like, some of the best British actors worked on that movie. And I think it's Ridley Scott's best movie since Blade Runner. It's better than Gladiator. Yep, I said it.
I'm cool with that. I have no problem with someone saying the Kingdom of Heaven is better than Gladiator.
Kingdom of Heaven is better than Prometheus.
And you like Prometheus more than me, too.
Yeah.
Just put it in perspective.
Did you listen to the tested Prometheus talk with Adam Savage?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, man, they just rag on that movie for half an hour. It's pretty funny.
That movie has inspired more talk on the internet than I think anything else.
Well, it's still talk. Like, people are still talking about that movie, and I guess they'll be still in the collective mind once the Blu-ray hits.
Oh, yeah.
So whenever that director's cut will come out, people will still be interested in talking about it, which is more to say than any other blockbuster that came out this year. People are not talking about Snow White and the Huntsman.
I even forgot that movie came out.
I did too, until now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's weird what movies are causing controversy this year. Like, what was it? Brave. I
haven't seen it. I'm going to see it this weekend, so...
Oh, cool.
Yeah, don't talk about it.
Yeah,
I've heard some
I won't talk about
it. The completely inappropriate stuff about her sexuality.
Okay, that is just
completely
madness.
inappropriate.
That is
Whoever's
madness.
talking about that they're talking about an underage female cartoon character. That is completely outrageous.
Well, it's the same group of people who said that the Teletubbies were gay. So, I mean, they just want something to hate, and they don't care what.
They have TVs on their stomach. They're just misunderstood.
I don't know. I understand. I'd say that I understand people with TVs on their stomachs. That is my perfect person. But let's see. All right, so number 99 was... I've got this flipped upside down. There's 462 people, 462 names on the list. Number 364 was Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut.
Woo.
Woo! All right, Interview with the Vampire, which we talked about last time. All right, now it's all brand new stuff. Number 362, From Dusk Till Dawn. Which I will say this about From Dusk Till Dawn: the trailers for that thing did not tell you at all what the movie was going to be about, and I think that is incredibly ballsy considering just how crazy that film gets.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's
I know what it's about.
You know what it's about. Okay, yeah, the movie, yeah, it's about these two lawless outlaws. I can't speak tonight.
Quentin Tarantino and George Clooney.
Exactly.
Aren't they brothers in that movie?
Yeah, they're brothers in that film. They kidnap this reverend and his daughter, and they stop in at this little like cantina out in the middle of the desert off the side of the road for the evening just to get something to eat. And then it turns out that the whole place is run by vampires. Nobody knew that going into this movie, that this was going to just suddenly out of nowhere have boom vampires. And I gotta give so much credit to a film that just hid something that big. It'd be like if Amazing Spider-Man did not have the Amazing Spider-Man in it. If you just thought it was going to be a romance between two high school kids.
They'd have to change the title to Just the Amazing. Or Just the Amazing Man.
Just the Amazing. I would absolutely love that if it had a super late title sequence in that movie and it was just The Amazing, and then all of a sudden Spider comes down and it says Spider-Man.
Well, it's just like the ending of John Carter, where at the very last part of the movie they show Mars and then it says John Carter, and then it adds of Mars.
Oh, that's when they thought it was safe to bring that out? Because that's why they didn't want to say John Carter of Mars, is because they thought of any movie with Mars in it was going to be just box office poison.
The movie's great. Well, it's not great, but it's really good.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard people have to give it a fair shake.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard it's actually a pretty good, movie.
It's completely entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a shame to hear that, just because of a crappy marketing plan, it got that bad of attention.
And then there's that New Yorker piece that was done on Andrew Stanton that really irked a lot of people off.
I don't even remember that one. Oh wait, yes I do. Okay, took me a second. But
I think that got more press in the movie industry than outside industry.
Yeah, it always just shocks me how the movie industry's mind works and how it can just distort things in weird ways. And it kind of creates its own curses. Like, Disney was so worried that it was going to be a massive bomb that their fear of it becoming a massive bomb ended up starting the rumor that this movie's going to be a massive bomb, and everyone heard it was going to be a massive bomb, so they just didn't go, making it actually happen.
Yeah, like there was an article today on Deadline about World War Z, World War Z, how that's completely turned into a disaster, how they've halted production and hired a new writer, and people were up in arms that David Lindelof had come on board to rewrite the ending, but now it seems like Drew Goddard of Cabin in the Woods is coming out to finish the very ending of that movie now. And in the very bottom of the article by the Deadline person is like, you know what, movies have run into troubles before, and maybe it'll turn out fine. Just have to get a fair shake. And I never see that in industry articles anymore.
I know that.
And so it was nice and refreshing. And you know what movie was a complete disaster? The Bourne Identity. Turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. There's always those things that are going to they're going to surprise you because somebody can have so much trouble backstage in the production of it, and people they'll never know about, and it won't alter their minds. Like, if nobody had ever heard that John Carter was going to be a massive bomb, it probably wouldn't have been a massive bomb.
Yeah. Because that's what everybody was talking about, even unscreened.
Oh yeah, I saw the articles on there, and I heard the rumors going around that was just these other studios out there so worried about another big Disney epic that they created accounts on forums all over the internet just to say, I think this movie's going to bomb.
Well, I think that third trailer they put out with the dubstep really just cemented how Disney had no idea how to market this movie.
Yeah, everybody's been joking that someone lost their job over that, but it's never been more true. I mean, someone definitely lost their job over that.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that was someone in the marketing industry.
So, From Dusk Till Dawn.
From Dusk Till Dawn, yes. Man, we just went off on that. And it wasn't even a movie that was on the list.
That's how podcasts become 4 hours long.
Yes, exactly. We have to keep in mind on this one.
Let's just do a tangent about Doctor Who.
About Doctor Who? I could do a tangent on Doctor Who. We are going to have a Doctor Who episode when he comes back.
Yeah, when that season 7 starts, we're going to start. Did you actually see them filming in New York?
No, I didn't. I didn't even know they were filming in New York.
Yeah, they were filming in the springtime. Oh, you should have gone. Could have been an extra.
That would have been awesome. I didn't even know they were doing it. They come out to New York fairly often, though. I mean, they did in Tenet's run, and so yeah.
No, they didn't.
They did?
No.
I thought they actually did film in the park.
Yeah, that was in this new season.
Oh, shit.
They were filming in Britain for that older season. Oh, man, you made me remember that episode. That episode's terrible.
Oh, the one with the dogs in New York? Yeah.
Nothing bothers me more than British actors trying to do really bad New York accents. Like, it's bad enough of Americans trying to do British accents, but British actors trying to do New York accents may be even worse.
No, the worst thing is when British actors try and do a Southern accent.
I don't know, Jeremy Irons' Southern accent in Die Hard with a Vengeance is pretty awesome.
That's the one Die Hard film I don't think I've seen yet. But,
yeah, it's the one with Samuel Jackson.
Oh wait, that was the one with the. Oh,
yeah, he was Simon Gruber.
Oh, okay. I thought Die Hard with a Vengeance was the second one. Okay, no, I have seen that one.
No, that's Die Harder.
Oh, yeah, which is not.
Oh, and this, I think Die Hard is the worst franchise for movie titles. Like this new
Die
one.
Hard.
It's a Good Day to Die Hard. Is the newest one. And I'm not excited for that movie anymore. Like, it's coming out in February, which makes me worried. And I wish they had cast Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad as John McClane's son. Sorry. But they didn't. They went for some actor that was on Spartacus.
I'm just hoping that in this one they kind of go back more to John McClane is not a robot. He's not, superhuman.
Yeah, and I think one of the producers said that And this really irked me, was that, yeah, and his son is going to be, like, even more of a badass than John McClane's. Like,
No.
No, that's impossible. That's physically,
No.
The universe cannot let that happen. Anyway, what's next for the next
The only
movie?
way that his son can be more of a badass is if his son is the enemy and he has to beat him. That's the only way I'll be willing to accept that, is if he has to take down his own son, and that's why his son is more of a badass.
And then they can censor Yippee-ki-yay, mother. Censor it again.
Which, that's what I don't even understand. You're allowed in a PG-13 movie to have one fuck in there.
Not with the precursor of mother. There's like strict guidelines of how the F word can be said in a PG-13 rating.
Have you seen that documentary? It was about this film is not yet rated, all about the MPA.
I never saw it. I heard a lot of stuff about it though.
It is kind of really, it is super depressing about what it reveals about the rating system.
Speaking of the MPA, everyone should go check out my list about the MPA's weirdest ratings.
Oh, I just saw that like a few days ago. I've just kind of stumbled onto that list. It's actually really good.
Yeah, and it's a list that I never really get to update at a frequent basis because the MPA does not rate movies in a silly and goofy manner like they used to.
Yeah, it's just kind of really strict now. It makes very little sense.
Yeah, like, it's always the best rating is the ones where they're very specific about something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
in Alice in Wonderland, when they say so-and-so for language, not language, but fantasy violence and finding images, and then a smoking caterpillar. Once that specific those are the things that I love about the MPA's ratings. When they're so specific. Drunkenness in Tintin, mother's sociopathic behavior, very intense depictions of bad weather. It's great.
Those things become really sad after you've watched This Film Is Not Yet Rated, and you actually get an understanding of who these people are making these. Because it really makes you see that they are this stuck up. Like, they are people who would go, I didn't like that thunderstorm there. That was scary. This is going to be R. It's really just sad when you understand these people.
Yeah. I've never seen the movie, so I can't really say.
Yeah,
I just like some of their funny ratings.
It is, yeah.
They were so funny, I made a list out of them. You should go check it out on screen.com. It's the #1 list. It's at the very top, don't worry. It's got like 27 ratings, it's like 100%, you can't miss it.
Alright, let's keep going. I think it's number 361
Yeah,
now.
we got through one movie on this list so far.
Alright.
We're doing great.
Hellboy. Castaway. Which is a pretty brave film when you think about the fact that they actually sold we're going to have just one guy out there for an hour and a half. Granted, it's
everybody
Tom
love a volleyball.
Yes. I love Wilson. Let's see.
I want to see the sequel of Spalding. Oh no, wait, his dentist was Spalding. Never mind.
Oh shit!
He's
You're
in
right.
the cave and he's talking to Wilson and he has the figure skate. He's like, "Oh yeah, my dentist was Dr. Spalding."
I forgot about that
isn't it?
scene. That is so cringe-inducing. Oh man. Let's see. Next up, Starship Troopers. Tropic Thunder. Oh, you want to talk about Starship Troopers?
That shouldn't be on the list. Come on, that movie's not that good. Like, I know people love it for its ironic fascist sentimentalities, but underneath all that movie's still terrible.
I go either way on that. It's one of those films in which I can see the pros and I can see the cons. I'm Swiss on this one.
A lot of people love that movie because it's terrible.
Oh yeah. Which I'm not the biggest.
It pales in comparison compared to Verhoeven's other movies.
Mm.
There's no "see you at the party" Richter moment.
Yeah, let's see. Then there was Tropic Thunder, which I give a lot of credit to for being the one Ben Stiller film that I actually really truly enjoy. I gave Ben Stiller another few years worth of shitty films that he was allowed to make after that film because I enjoyed it so much. 300, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, House on Haunted Hill, the original, Deliverance, Stagecoach, which I don't think that was John Wayne's first film, but I think it was his first Western, and I gotta say, I'm not a guy who really enjoys a lot of Westerns, but I really dug Stagecoach.
I don't like the John Wayne stuff. I prefer the Sergio Leone films.
Oh yeah, I'll take The Man with No Name over John Wayne any day. But
Yeah, that's where I sort of fall on my Western.
yeah, I'm definitely a Clint Eastwood guy over John Wayne. But yeah, Stagecoach was when he was young, and it is John Wayne is one of those guys who you never thought was young, but yeah, it is really interesting getting to see him in his first Western. And what I love is that in Stagecoach, it's about a stagecoach just going along from one town to the other, and the stagecoach is just filled with every Western trope you can find. It's got every single cliche from a Western movie is sitting in the back of the stagecoach, and it's a fun Western. Next up is Bananas. Bananas was my nominee. We've actually got two of my nominees in a row. Bananas is the first one. Woody Allen film. This was back when Woody Allen was just basically making live-action Looney Tunes films. And Bananas, to me, is hilarious. It has me rolling every time I watch it. I mean, the fact that in a live-action movie, they have a guy pull a pin on a grenade and then throw the pin and the grenade blows his hand off. Then the next scene, he takes a grenade, pulls the pin out, throws the grenade, and then the pin blows up his other hand. It just has me cracking up that he actually did that in a real life sense, in a live action film. It is, for anybody who loved old Marx Brothers movies, this is what it reminds me of. This is like a more modern day. This is like a 1970s Marx Brothers film.
I've never even heard of that movie. You just made me look on screen to see what it was.
Bananas, it is hilarious. It is about a nebbish New Yorker. A Woody Allen film starring a nebbish New Yorker? No. Who goes to, I can't remember if it actually was Cuba or if it was basically a made-up country that was supposed to be Cuba, where guerrillas are about to overthrow the government, and he basically has to work with the guerrillas. And it is just a great fish-out war story. I'm trying to think of some of my favorite moments from it, because it's been so long since I've seen it, even though I own it, but yeah, like, mild spoiler alert, but the guerrillas end up winning, and then the moment the guerrillas end up winning and taking over the country, he just starts making the craziest rules you've ever heard, and they just go, he's gone mad with power, like 5 seconds into being in control. It is the kind of film that I have not seen anybody do successfully in a long time. And the next film, this is another one of the ones I put on the list, so I'm going to talk about forever. After Hours. I don't know if you've seen this one.
Is that the Scorsese movie?
Scorsese movie, yeah.
Yeah. Never seen it.
Never seen it. This is an Aaron Bishop movie if I've ever seen one. If you sat me down and said, what are the things that make up your favorite movies? Like, what are your favorite things? Let's see. Every Man protagonist, set in New York in the 1970s, all taking place at night. One crazy adventure, mean weird people, one after another. And they went, okay, we got all that down. Who's your favorite director of all time? Martin Scorsese. Oh, we have a film that matches everything on that list, made by your favorite director. I absolutely love this film. It is about a guy who basically he works at an office at this really shitty job, and he just meets a girl and he wants to go downtown one night to just get laid. That's the entire point of him going on this wild adventure in the first place. He takes out some money, like I think it was only like $20, but this is the 70s, so that was actually a decent amount of cash. And it blows out the window of his cab, and now he is stuck downtown in the middle of the night, and he has to get back uptown in New York in the 1970s, back before Giuliani, when if you walked 5 blocks in New York in that time, you would get mugged 6 times. And he just meets one crazy person after another. Just one inconvenient thing happens. It all keeps piling up until at the end there's like a crazy mob after him. I absolutely love the film, so I give it a high recommendation. Next up, Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. I have not seen it.
It's way better.
It's way better. Was this one of your nominations?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen the Richard Donner cut.
It's one of my nominations for Best Sequel.
Oh, nice. Yeah, this was originally going to be an episode dedicated to sequels, but yeah, we don't have time to go into that. We're just going to do this, but yeah, well, I'll have to remember that for when we actually do the sequels episode. But yeah, what makes the Richard Donner cut so different than the actual original version?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay.
I just remember it was way better.
On screen, it says it's much darker, but...
Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay. Next up, we have Metropolis, the anime version of it. Not the...
The anime version's awesome.
It is! It is a very good movie.
I haven't seen that movie in maybe 12 years, but I just remember really liking it.
It's got amazing animation, especially there at the end with the little girl like starting to wig out, for lack of a better term. But yeah, it is a really good film. Next up, The Way of the Gun, The Pink Panther, which I love The Pink Panther.
Is this Shot in the Dark in this list?
Shot in the Dark? Oh shit, I don't think it is. No.
That's one of the great sequels I also nominated.
Shot in the Dark is really good. It is.
Shot in the Dark's way better than Pink Panther.
I love all the Inspector Clouseau stuff. That is one of the great film characters of all time. It's after I get through the Screen Pups list, I want this to be a regular thing where I keep asking the Screen Pups to make a list of their favorite blank, and then I'll just keep going through them on the podcast. And eventually I do want to do favorite characters, and if Inspector Clouseau is not way up there, I'm going to be sorely disappointed. Let's see. Dead Zone, Shaolin Soccer, Secret of Nim, which we've talked about multiple times on this show. The Jerk. Oh, God, I love The Jerk. The Jerk was one of Steve Martin's first real big feature-length films. And he's just playing the lovable dumbass just on his trip into the big city and out to discover himself. And it's got one of my favorite comedic moments of any film when he's basically leaving his girlfriend, and one by one he is just grabbing things on his way out of the house. It's a great comedic sequence, and I recommend everybody watch this movie just for that alone.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I liked Roxanne a lot, though.
Roxanne is good. It is. But yeah, The Jerk was basically, I really love Steve Martin's stand-up, because it was just so wacky and crazy, and I hadn't really seen any other stand-up comic do that. And The Jerk was basically just his stand-up comedy put to life. It was put that kind of weird craziness put onto film. So yeah, it's a very fun movie that I recommend watching. It's not really even like a heavy movie. Like, it's one of those ones that you can just watch on a lazy day just for a good laugh.
It's a breezy comedy.
Yeah. Now for the exact opposite of The Jerk, Falling Down, Love Actually, Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country.
How is Undiscovered Country more higher up on this list than The Journey Home?
Sadly, I have not seen enough Star
Undiscovered
Trek.
Country does not have whales in it. Come on.
Oh, was The Journey Home that one with the space whales?
When they go back to 1980s San Francisco. Yeah. Undiscovered Country is the one where they have Klingons reciting Shakespeare. Well, actually, it has Christopher Plummer reciting Shakespeare as a Klingon. Wait, really? Is that the movie I'm thinking of? Yeah, that's the one, because it has Sulu as the captain of I think it was the Excelsior, and then at the very end, they fire the torpedo, and it locks on with the heat signature that's getting given off by the Klingon warbirds cloaking device, and Spock and Dr. McCoy are in the torpedo bay, and Captain Kirk's hammering on them to go faster. Why am I reciting this movie's ending?
I don't know, but I was enjoying it. I'm going to have to watch the movie now.
I just remember there was the one scene where there was floating blood, and I was 6 at the time, so I thought that was utterly fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
I love whenever somebody actually thinks of something original to do with anti-gravity in a space film. So, yeah, I can understand that. Let's see, next up is Animal House. Have you seen this one?
No.
Animal House.
I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that. I've never seen it.
It only really seems like comedies that you haven't really seen a lot of. Everything else, trust me, you just recited Star Trek 4. You know, you're not gonna get flack on this site.
I actually have a list of my favorite comedies on screen, and I actively say in the opening paragraph, I don't really like comedies that much.
But yeah, Animal House is a great. It's one of. It reminds me of when
It's a classic, and
it is. It reminds me of when National Lampoon used to do good films. but it is the college humor movie. Like, all those films in which you see people, going crazy on college campus, Van Wilder and crap like that, they all came from Animal House. Animal House is the father to them all, and it's the superior to them all, in my opinion. It's just got so many great characters. Dean Wormstrom, Pluto, all of them. I could just keep going on. And they actually did on their DVD, they actually did a Where Are They Now with, like, the characters themselves, and actually got each of them to, like, track each of them down, and had each of them act as their characters and behave in that manner. And there was this one crazy guy who, basically, he was the guy who built, like, monster cars and stuff like that. When they track him down, this little fake documentary, you just see him come pouring out of the garage of his car and just go screaming off into the night. So I love that even after all these years, there are people out there who have that much of a passion that they're willing to, like, create stuff like that. But yeah, it's hilarious. So
I feel like I wouldn't get as much out of it just because I've seen all these other movies that have been directly inspired by Animal House that I probably wouldn't have that same realization that how groundbreaking Animal House really was at the time.
That's legitimate, but the other thing that this has going for it is that it is very distinctly set in the 1950s. I mean, the movie wasn't made in the 1950s, but it was made in the 70s about a fraternity in the 50s. And because it was supposed to be in a somewhat of a way of a period piece, no other film really plays on a lot of the stuff that they do. So I think that it still will stand out very much as its own. But once again, I highly recommend that one.
I've seen Back to School, so not everyone can be mad at me.
Oh, hey, Back to School. That's a fine film.
Yeah.
It's no Animal House, though. Just kidding. Let's see. Once again, let's go into the exact opposite of Animal House now. Mystic River. Which I like. Some people absolutely hate that film. I don't know why. I really dig it. But then again, I mostly just dig it for Sean Penn's performance.
I haven't seen it. I want to, though. It's one of those films I'll get around to seeing someday.
Yeah. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Untouchables. Wayne's World. Crank.
What?
I'm shocked that Crank got higher than Crank 2. Because Crank 2, at least I can understand, because it's just pure insanity and madness. Let's see. Clerks 2. Mallrats.
What? Clerks 2.
I'll admit, I enjoyed Clerks 2, but yeah, it's...
Clerks 2 has maybe like 10 minutes worth of really funny bits, and all the rest of it's sort of kind of mediocre. And I love Rosario Dawson, but I think she didn't really add anything to that movie.
She didn't really add anything, but I will also say that I really dig the ending to the film, that it is just kind of that just kind of like firmly sets an end point for the Kevin Smith Jerseyverse, as people call it. I really dig that they actually do just have a genuine moment of friendship there at the end. That so few films are afraid to kind of show just two guys who absolutely go, dude, you're my best friend. And I feel that now these days we don't get that quite as much as we might have once. And it felt like a very genuine moment to me. Plus, I absolutely love that just out of nowhere, I'm going to mildly spoil it here, but it's one of the things I actually kind of dig about the ending to this film, is that at the end of this movie, they do just go, yeah, haven't you guys paid attention to the other movies in this franchise? Jay and Silent Bob are loaded. They had a movie made about them. They have tons of cash. I love that just comes out of nowhere, and so it would seem like a Deus Ex Machina, but it's not a Deus Ex Machina because... yeah, we watched the other movies. We know these two guys are stinking rich. Why did they not bring this up earlier?
That movie's in color. It's not as good that way.
That's true.
There's a black and white version of that comes out someday. It'll be much better for it.
Well, I love that the movie starts out in black and white, and then when he opens it up and everyth's on fire.
Everything's on fire.
That is a great scene. You gotta admit, that's a good joke.
Yeah, but that was in the trailer, so...
that's true, yeah. Which, yeah, when a joke is in a trailer, it does ruin it 9 times out of 10. Let's see. Mallrats. Watchmen. If people like Watchmen, I'm fine with it, but I once got into an argument with a friend of mine in which I was saying, hey, Watchmen, it's fine, but, they took scenes directly from the comic book, but they didn't capture the feel of the comic book. And, like, she was getting angry at me going, yes, they did. They absolutely captured it. And then, like, we kept going back and forth. And eventually, she just shouted out, yeah, well, I haven't read the comic book. And I just went, you just defended for the last 15 minutes that this was exactly like the comic book, which you now admit you have not read.
That the Watchmen movie is the best movie adaptation Watchmen will probably ever get. The fact is, Watchmen, it's not designed or constructed to be a movie. Like, what Terry Gilliam wanted to do in the 90s was to make a miniseries.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most effective, most I don't know, faithful way they could have made Watchmen. But it wasn't. It's a movie, and this is probably the best Watchmen's ever going to be.
I completely agree with you, because Watchmen is one of those stories where it needs to go in beats. It can't all come right at once. Plus, it's just too big. And I think you summed it up perfectly. This is the best Watchmen movie we're going to get. That being said...
And honestly, I like the ending. I didn't have any problems with them getting rid of the giant creature. Like,
yeah, that would... Yeah, that's...
Dr. Manhattan to be the complete... destroyer New York and all these people. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's one of those things in which a lot of people just kind of have to realize not everything from a book or a comic or, you know, or a TV show are going to work when you adapt it into a different medium.
I have trouble sleeping when I read Watchmen.
Oh, it is such a creepy book.
Yeah. I lose sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night whenever I'm reading that book. So it's the reason why I have not read it since that movie came out.
Yeah. I don't think it was well acted. I'll throw that out there too. I do think it was a well acted film.
It's got everyone's really good. Malin Ackerman's been miscast. So is the actor who played Light. He's miscast.
Mm-hmm. Also, I will say that Watchmen was the film in which Zack Snyderisms kind of jumped the shark for me.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see Man of Steel, how that turns out.
Yeah.
See how much of those Snyderisms kind of crawl into this Superman movie.
It's easy
whether
Superman.
Chris Nolan kind of knocked that out of him.
Well, that's the thing, is everybody keeps saying, hey, don't worry, Christopher Nolan is on this. And it's like, hey, Christopher Nolan gets Batman, but Batman and Superman are almost literally night and day. So I am going to be interested in seeing what comes out of Man of Steel. But, yeah, it's easy for...
Man of Steel's got to be done by Christmas. It's got to.
It has to be. And it's easy for Superman to be faster than a speeding bullet when it's a Zack Snyder bullet. Everyone is faster than a Zack Snyder bullet, so...
But then he'll be in slow motion, so you can see how fast of a bullet he is.
Yes. Let's see. Next up, Goodbye, Mr. Chips. Help, which is the first of
Beatles
two
movie?
Beatle. Yes, the first of two Beatle movies that we have on this list. And
it's what?
Yeah.
Oh, what's the other one?
It's coming up later. I don't want to spoil it, but it's.
Is it Hard Day's Night?
Yes, it is.
Because that movie's amazing.
I'll make sure to have you back on when we talk about that one.
That one's genuinely funny, and the Beatles are really, they have good comedic beats with one another. Ironically enough, the movie was directed by Richard Lester, who directed Superman 2.
Oh.
When he came back after he replaced Donner. And he did 3, so.
Ew. Have you seen Help, though? Because I've heard a lot of people say that The Help is actually the superior one of those two.
I've never seen The Help, so I can only say to Hard Day's Night.
Yeah, I've only seen Hard Day's Night myself. Let's see. Next up, we have Dreams, Redbeard, Arthur. I love Arthur. The original one with Dudley Moore. I absolutely love Arthur. It's just a story about this rich drunk who doesn't want to grow up. He wants to remain a boy. But then, it actually does take some serious turns, like with what happens to the butler, won't say. And also, I think the love story is very great. And it's got, once again, it does what the best comedies should do, which is gives everybody, like, one specific moment that is unique to them, that they take away from it. And for me, it's the moment where they're trying to arrange Arthur to marry this rich, stuck-up, horrible woman. And he goes to meet her drunk, horrible father. And he is just nervous and out of his mind, and he's just wants a drink so bad, and he's just sitting there trying to make polite conversation. And there's a giant moose head between them, and just in the middle of the conversation, when he can't win the father over, he just points to the moose and goes, "Where's the rest of this moose?" And to me, whenever I meet one of my girlfriend's fathers, that is the one line that is always going through my head. Like, I always have to fight the urge to say, "Where's the rest of this moose?" Let's see. Next is Being There, The Sword in the Stone, Gandhi, A Christmas Story. I'd like A Christmas Story a whole lot more if TBS did not insist on playing it 24 hours a day every Christmas.
Yeah,
that's just me. Let's see. Oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the next one.
If it's the remake version, this list is done.
No. If it was the remake version, it would be at, like, the bottom of this list. This is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which, I'll admit, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I do have a story that I have to tell about the film. In college, I took a class, and I was a film student, so I took some weird classes. I took a class on horror films. And one day, we sat and we watched all of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it didn't really do anything. I kept thinking, this really isn't affecting me like I probably should. And the final scene of the movie is as the sun is coming up, and it's got this great orangish yellow hue over everything. And Leatherface is whirling around with his chainsaw, just revving it up, and that noise going everywhere. And that's how the movie ends. And after it ends, we all got up and we walked out of the class, and the sun was setting as I walked to my car in the parking lot. And there was this giant orangish hue over everything, over all the cars, over the entire parking lot. And I was just thinking to myself, I guess that movie was alright. And as I was walking, someone behind me revved up their motorcycle. I screamed like a little girl. That movie, even though I didn't think it had much of an effect on me, it very clearly did. Like, that got disproven just a few minutes after I left the class. But yeah, I enjoy Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so.
I've never seen it.
Okay. Let's see. THX 1138, An American Werewolf in London.
That's a pretty good movie.
It is a good movie.
I love this. I love the scene in the movie theater. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Oh, with all the dead bodies in the audience. Yeah, that's great.
All that makeup in that movie is incredible.
It is insane to me that we have been able to do that with like practical effects, and yet still 9 times out of 10 people will choose to go with CGI because the practical effects in that film look so much better than most CGI.
Yeah, and it's all Rick Baker stuff, and the Rick Baker's all his makeup that was in the Men in Black movies. Mm-hmm. That's some of the best stuff in that movie. Like the stuff I take away from Men in Black 3 was Josh Brolin's performed and all the practical makeup that Rick Baker did.
Absolutely. Let's see.
And Rick Baker has the coolest ponytail ever, so whatever. Next
is Tremors.
Tremors?
Yeah. Kevin Bacon with fighting sandworms.
Burt Ward, and I remember seeing that movie a lot. I had that movie on VHS.
I watched that all the time when I was a kid. I absolutely loved that film when I was a kid. Let's see. Super Troopers. Under the Red Hood, which was the animated Batman, which was one of the animated Batman films, which was all about the return of Jason Todd. Went straight to video, but, someone nominated, so I'll still include it. And I gotta say, Under the Red Hood was the first of DC's straight-to-DVD animated films that I actually watched and went, you know what, they're actually good now. Because up until then, they had just been kind of, meh. This one is actually legitimately good. And it goes to, like, dark places, which it should for what the story is. Let's see. Gattaca, Desperado, Fletch, They Live, Bronson. Bronson is a fantastic performance by Tom Hardy. That guy loses himself in that role.
Ironically enough, Christopher Nolan hadn't seen Bronson when he cast Tom Hardy as Bane. Which is surprising because you would naturally assume that he cast him because he was in the Inception and because he saw Bronson. But no, Christopher Nolan saw Rock and Rolla and decided to cast Tom Hardy in Inception.
Damn, because Bronson might as well be his Bane audition tape. Because he buffs up like crazy in that. Well, actually, I say Warrior might as well be his audition tape to be Bane. But both of them. Tom Hardy is to muscles what Christian Bale is to losing weight. You need Tom Hardy to put on muscles. He will do it, and he can still act like crazy. Let's see. Apollo 13, Escape from New York, Total Recall, Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Oh no, I said it 3 times.
I was about to say, how can I get tricked into saying this 2 more times? We have to do that joke.
The Community and joke of Beetlejuice was incredible when I found that out.
That blew my mind when I found that out. Let's see. Jackie Brown, which I think is Quentin Tarantino's best directed film. I wouldn't say it's his best film, but it's the one which I respected him the most as a director. Let's see.
It's its most mainstream movie. I don't know if you know what I mean when I say that. It's his least Quentin Tarantino-esque movie.
Maybe that's the reason why I like it so much. Nothing against Quentin Tarantino, but maybe that's why it stands out more to me, because it is the most different. Let's see. The Town, which I nominated.
Great movie.
Yeah, I nominated because The Town to me proves that even if every story has been done before, because I saw The Town, I was like, this is just about bank robbers and a guy who wants to get out of it. It's still insanely good. It takes a story we've seen before and does it so well.
And it's reinvigorated everything I've ever thought about Ben Affleck. I want to see what he does next when he directs stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's proven he's going to be a phenomenal director.
And
Argo looks great too.
To me, I'm hoping Argo turns out just as well, because for me to call someone a phenomenal director, I gotta see 3 really good movies from him. And so far, we've gotten 2 great ones from Ben Affleck, so I'm crossing my fingers on Argo. Because after that, I will give it to him, and I will say he is a fantastic director, and nothing's gonna change my mind on that if he can get 3 in a row. Let's see. Then Batman, Spider-Man 2, which we've already talked about. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, A Separation, Dogtown and the Z-Boys, Animal Crackers, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, which starred... What? Oh, shoot, who played his hand in that movie? God, I gotta look it up, but then...
I've never heard of this movie. What's it called again?
Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust. It is an anime film.
Well, I don't want to know anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But it's actually really good animation, and I mean, it's got some really great monster designs. I will give it that, because it's, everything is just, classic monsters, werewolves, vampires, stuff like that, and they do some great animation with it. And Michael McShane plays his left hand in this. That dude, he is like my go-to, this guy needs more work guy. I constantly just keep hoping that Michael McShane will get more work at some point in time. He was, for anybody who doesn't know, he was the therapist in Office Space. The one who dies of a heart attack. Let's see. Next we have Godzilla, the original, the classic. Jet Li.
Don't you mean Godzilla?
Gojira. Yes. Let's see. Jet Li's Fearless, Scent of a Woman, which I flat out love Al Pacino's performance in that movie. Yes, exactly. It's over the top, but it's just the right amount of over the top.
It's not the movie I wanted him to win an Oscar for.
Oh, I'll agree with you on that. But still, I really love that. I also really love our next movie. In fact, this next one was one of my nominations, My Cousin Vinny. I really love My Cousin Vinny for multiple reasons. One, just for all the acting in it, and also I love seeing the turn where Vinny slowly becomes and reveals to everybody how great of an attorney he actually is. I mean, that is just such a great montage to me, where he is just one by one taking down every single one of these people up on the stand. But also, every single time that we see somebody from the big city go out to the country, they never know how to do anything, and everything, it's so much simpler, but they can't understand it, and, they can only function in the city, and it turns out that all these people in the country, well, they're the people who really know how to live, and they're the ones who are really doing it right. In My Cousin Vinny, it's these two kids from the city who get put in jail and are on death row for something they did not do. Why are they there? Because, hey, they're from the city and the country's full of assholes. And Vinny comes down, and it's basically nothing but Vinny going, these people are fucking crazy. Let me get my cousin out of jail, and then let's get the hell out of here. And I just, it's not like I'm saying I agree with what he says, even though I am a guy who grew up in the country and moved out of there for many reasons. But also, I just love that this is one of the only movies I can name that actually does that. That actually does not do the stereotypical, oh, the New Yorkers, they're the ones who are really screwed up. No, it's they go to the country and they have no idea how anybody does anything, and then they just kind of reveal these people are all just rubes. But anyway, I will watch that film every time it comes on TV. That is like one of my few movies that every time it comes on TV, I will just sit down and that's my day. Let's see.
Two youths.
Let's see. Rosemary's Baby. Audition. Futurama Into the Wild Green Yonder. Carlitos. I'll allow it. All right.
Okay.
We don't have a single Muppet movie on this list, but we've got Futurama. Let's see.
Yeah.
Carlito's Way. Clue. God, I wish movies would be more like Clue. Clue, the original, when it was released, they had 3 different endings to this film, and depending on which theater you went to see it, depended on which ending you saw. I wish some movie would just do something like that. Let's see. Then Ronin has one of the greatest car chases of all time.
Yep.
The Host, a great South Korean horror, little monster movie.
A bit overrated.
A bit overrated.
But I watched the English dub track, so that was probably a mistake.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Because I
don't think there was a Japan or a Korean. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, there was. I watched it. I watched it Korean.
Oh right, okay. I remember why I watched it in English. Never mind.
But let's see. Doctor No, The Fly.
No.
Oh, you don't agree with Doctor No being on here, or you just want to say it?
No, I do.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Ah.
No? What?
What? Anyway, The Fly.
Goldfinger.
No, The Fly, Goldblum.
Oh. Goldbluming. Jeff, you're totally Goldbluming. What? I don't know what you're talking about, Andy. There we go. More community references.
Oh, God.
There will be no ghosting in this class.
Alright, Mulholland Drive. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. First Blood. Rain Man. Thank You for Smoking, which that was another one of my nominations. Absolutely love Thank You for Smoking. Just the fact that to me is one of my favorite anti-heroes in any movie, because he's such a sympathetic character and he's so charismatic and he's so loving. And then the movie opens with him saying, "I've killed more people than anyone in history."
Yeah. What number are we at now?
We are at, let's see, on my list, because sadly my list goes number 180. It's at number 184, which I gotta do some quick math to figure that one out. But yeah, if you want to do like 16 more, we'll get to the 200th entry, and then we can call it a night. Let's see, Fast 5, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, that's probably my favorite genre movie of last year.
It was so good, and I keep trying to convince my dad to watch it, but he was just so turned off by that trailer. But there
were moments where people were like oohing and awing at certain points.
It is such an amazing film, and for so many reasons. I mean, not just the story, or for the special effects, which that to me kind of says that we need to start. That movie kind of told me that we need to start taking our
motion capture.
our mocap actors more seriously. We need to actually start considering them for being more than like just a voice actor or something.
Yeah, Andy Serkis is just he's so good in that movie.
It would not surprise me if at some point in time there became an Andy Serkis award at these award shows, which was just specifically for a mocap actor. Let's see. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Braveheart, Zodiac.
Zodiac's good.
Zodiac, yeah, David Fincher, excellent.
It's a long movie, but really good.
I need to see it again. I just realized how long it's been since I've seen that film. Let's see. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. This is probably my What the Hell Were You Thinking nomination, because I nominated this one, and I know everybody's going to wonder why. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, I am such a fan of old school 2D animation, and with all the CG animation that we've had going on for, God, I don't even know how long it's become the new popular thing to do, it seemed to me like a lot of 2D animation style was lost, and it wasn't ever going to really come back, because there are so many kinds of jokes that you can't do in CGI animation, just simply because the timing of it works so much better with 2D animation. And Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was that film that re-energized my love and actually gave me faith again for that kind of style, because they showed that you can do these kinds of jokes with this kind of pacing in a 3D setting. So it's a film that I watch. Not only does it crack me up constantly, but actually does give me like faith that that style is not lost.
So over the weekend, I had the choice between watching Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and Shrek Forever After. And I watched Shrek Forever After, and I watched only the hour of it, and then I stopped. So maybe next time I will watch Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is one of those ones in which you gotta love like those like Looney Tunes. Like if you like Looney Tunes' sense of comedy, then I would highly recommend it to you, because it is that same. It's that same pacing with their jokes. Plus, I'll admit, anytime that you give me a good father-son moment, I am such a softie for it. Like, that is my one, like, melt the heart kind of trope. Like, anytime you have a father-son moment, it gets to me, and there's a great one at the end of this movie. Plus, Mr. T is in this, and he doesn't play Mr. T. He actually plays a character, and he's a hilarious character. I was cracking up every time he was on screen.
Speaking of Looney Tunes, just a quick tangent, but... did you ever watch the Looney Tunes Back in Action?
I did. That was the one with Steve Martin and Brendan Fraser, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
There's a Dalek in the background of that movie.
Really?
Yeah. Steve Martin is apparently a big Doctor Who fan, and of course the Daleks are owned. They're not owned by the BBC. Like their whole design is owned by some one of the people that worked on the original show. So they were able to get the license for the Dalek to be in the movie without going to the BBC.
That is really impressive. That's a nice little fun fact.
I read about that in like some screen grab that showed it. It's like, what? Why is there an exterminating Dalek in the background of this Looney Tunes movie?
Cool.
And that's why.
Let's see. V for Vendetta, The Fifth Element, Back to the Future Part 2, Beckett, Little Big Man, Fantastic Planet, The Adventures of Robin Hood, the original Vampire Hunter D, and lastly, at number 262, The Chaser.
Okay. Never heard of it.
Yeah, me neither. Maybe I should find one that we actually can discuss to go out on. I'll just keep going until we find one that we can talk about. Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene.
I've heard of it. Haven't seen it.
I've heard of it once again, and I've heard fantastic things, but yeah, I can't really say much. Bonnie and Clyde?
No.
Dang.
One of those movies I'll get to.
Okay, this one I've seen. We can talk about this one at least, and go out on it. Serpico. And I will say about Serpico, I like it, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to. Like, it seemed to me like they were trying too hard to stick to being like an accurate telling of this guy's life, without realizing that, hey, this is a movie, we don't need to see everything, because not all this is important. But, I mean, I was digging, like, I didn't need to see that he had a girlfriend before the girlfriend that breaks up with him because he's too obsessed with breaking down corruption, but, it is a good movie about, it is a good, what's the word I'm looking for? I have to do this without AC, so my mind is slowly draining out of my head. It's a good,
It's a movie.
What's it called when when a movie is about a biopic? It is a good biopic. Thank you. Oh, jeez.
You're welcome.
Yes, but it is a good biopic. I will say that, and it's a great performance by Al Pacino. And old Al Pacino before he lost his mind and his voice.
Ooh-ah.
Yeah. He really must have gone hoarse on the set of that, because it is weird watching an old Al Pacino movie now and just seeing when he had that nasally voice, kind of like this.
Kevin Spacey does an incredible Al Pacino.
Oh, he does such a good Kevin Spacey is a fantastic impressionist. He does a lot of people great.
Yeah, I've seen that video of him on the Actors Studio a couple times.
But yeah, all right, so that was number 259, and that is where we're cutting it for tonight. I want to thank Kevin for being on the show tonight. Anything you want to plug? You've named off some lists. Any other lists you want to get recommendations on? Want to give out your Twitter account? Anything like that?
Ooh-ah.
Yes. It's late. All right. Well,
It is hot, too. God.
yeah, we got to do
It's
this
like
without
almost-
AC, and I am sweating up a storm. But yeah.
It's like 90 degrees in my room right now.
And you're up in Canada.
Fahrenheit.
That should not exist. That temperature should not be a thing up there.
Well, also, I can't have my window open because it's allergy season, so
Oh, God.
I'm like cooking in a sauna right now.
Yeah. Thank you for being on the show. We'll have this up
Thank
soon.
you for having me.
And everybody make sure to tune in next week. And feel free to come back next week if you want, Kevin, because next week, you know what that is.
I'm Batman.
Yes. Next week is our big Batman episode. I'm not talking like this.
Batman.
I'm not talking like this to do an impersonation. I just have run out of all steam and my voice is sore. But yeah, next week I'm going to have multiple guests on. And we're going to do a big Batman roundtable. So join me, and I'm going to guess Mr. Maz, because I know he wants to be on. Maybe.
Well, he's been leading up to it.
Exactly. He's been writing nothing but blogs leading up to it. If he's not on, he's going to be pissed that I left him off. So yeah, join me, probably you, probably Mr. Maz. Michelle might be in the background, I don't know. There's going to be other people. I don't plan these things. Enjoy the episode and enjoy Dark Knight. Bye, everybody.
Booah.